Welcome back to That's Mental TV with me, Christine Charles, your host for this episode, which is Rees Finlay. Welcome, Rees. Now, I met Rees in my broadcasting role as a radio presenter on Radio Plus Coventry, which is the health and wellbeing show, airs every Saturday, 10 a.m. till 12 noon. Bit of a plug there, hey. And Rees kindly agreed to be on the show. You've got an interesting and varied background, film, as we can see from the things around you in the background. And also, Rees didn't have a beard last time we met, so that's a bit new. You've got such an interesting story, incredible young man who has overcome mental health battles, put things in your place in your life to be structured to help you on a day-to-day basis. So tell us, Rees. I've told our viewers a bit about you. Now you tell them in your own words, who is Rees Finlay?
Thank you so much, Christine. So I'm an illustrator and content creator, I guess, based in Coventry. So I started coming up on the small press comic scene, but eventually opened doors to work on official trading cards for these huge movie and TV franchises I grew up with: Star Wars, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead. Super exciting, living the dream. And then late 2018, I had an incredibly catastrophic mental health crisis. We'll word that softly to the audience. And from there, I found myself getting diagnosed with autism, which is, sadly, it's quite common that a lot of people go late diagnosed. And there was almost a journey of rediscovery and reinvention that came along with that, from having such a huge diagnosis put on you so late in life when you thought you knew who you were. And that led to me writing a book called Reaffirmation, Coming to Terms with an Autism Diagnosis. Yeah. Part comic, part novel, covering the mental health incident and what it is to now have this autistic identity with me.
So how did that make you feel at the time when you were diagnosed with autism?
It's tricky. There was a 1-year wait up to the diagnosis, which is quite common. And within that time, I had this period to research it, to work out what it was, what it meant to me, and how I'd come to terms with it. So I was like, oh, okay, it'll be perfect. I'm still me. It'll be fine. But the second that diagnosis came along, everything changed. It suddenly felt like all my thoughts and feelings from before weren't valid, and this was a clean slate, and I had to work out who I was and what I want to do going forward. And it was tricky. And then deciding to write about it as well, that brings everything back up to the surface. But then after that, there's a period of catharsis and understanding in terms of how you want to live your life going forward. And I think that's the positive thing to come from it.
Yeah. So Rees, you're living your life, you've got a good life, and you're achieving things creatively in terms of your career. You're going really well, actually. And then you get diagnosed with autism and you start questioning yourself. Who am I? What's my identity? I mean, where would you even start from?
Well, that's the thing. It's you've just got to, you're going back through your childhood, through your teenage years, just reassessing and reevaluating everything, and it completely changes your perspective on how you were and who you're going to be. So in terms of, I don't know, I could list lots of bad things that happened along the way, but when you look at the big picture, it's actually quite a positive one. And I've always been a big fan of playing the cards I'm dealt. So, okay, I've been given this diagnosis. I am now a disabled adult who struggles with a lot of things in life, but I'm going to play to my strengths. I'm good at drawing. I'm good at saying things, and hopefully I'm a little bit funny and entertaining with that. And that can give me a voice that I'm quite lucky to have, I'd say.
Yeah. Good for you, pal. You know, if anyone's watching right now and they're saying, well, I'm in that situation right now, not necessarily with autism, but I'm in the place of life right now where I am trying to find my identity. I'm trying to discover who I am, and I'm confused, I'm lost. And you're talking about positivity. How do I get there? What kind of mindset do I need to have? What kind of tools and resources? How do I get to the place of where Rees Finlay was to where he is now? What is it? What was the deciding factor that made you go, I'm going to look at it from a positive perspective?
It's a very important quote that I hold very close to my heart, and I know it's from some philosopher, but I'm quoting it from a 1990 film, The Matrix. Know thyself, and I think that's a great starting point to then start to self-analyze and self-reflect, not in an egotistical or narcissistic way, but in a way that you understand who you are, what your needs are, on both an on an emotional and sensory level as well, which is something that's quite often overlooked. And then from there, you can start to work out what's best for you, because your only point of comparison is going to be yourself. So I can't compare my mental health to someone else's mental health because they're in a completely different situation with other things going on. But I can compare my mental health to the mental health of me 2 years ago. And 2020, for many, many reasons, has been a really hard year full of incredible pain and loss. But surprisingly, I've reacted and behaved a lot better than I have in the past towards such dramas and issues. So I think I've realized that I've worked out how to meet my own needs, how to work within my parameters and limits, and set time for myself. And, I was always quite cynical to the idea of self-care and all that sort of thing. But the second you start to practice it, you start to realize how important that is to one's own well-being. So, I've had quite a few social media breaks and stuff during this year, and it's been incredibly freeing.
I think you've hit a few nails on the head there. The things the external things that can contribute to one's mental health when you're already going through things. And it's also very inspiring that as a young man that you're recognizing these triggers. It's all about the self-awareness and the boundary setting. And it's starting from a blank page, isn't it? Which is what you've literally done. So anybody watching right now who, what advice, what tips and wisdom could you give to anybody watching right now? Because we know you're going to be back on the show, That's Mental, digging a bit deeper around identity, because I think this is a really key thing right now for a lot of young people. What is identity? How do I start? So there's a lot more to come from you. But right now, what pearls of wisdom could you give to anybody who's watching in the middle of lockdown, because we haven't come out of it yet, having had the tough year that you have, including this pandemic? What wisdom could you give, Rees?
I think it's about hanging in there, really, because I can get frustrated that many career opportunities and stuff are lost to me because of COVID, and that's quite selfish, and there's more important pressing matters on. So it's about brushing certain things to the side and knowing what's within your control and what's not in your control. For instance, I have a big issue around being addicted to social media, constantly refreshing the news feed. But all I'm doing is filling myself with negativity and fear. And while I'm not saying bury your head in the sand and avoid that, you can limit it for your own well-being and safety. And that's probably the biggest thing I've been doing this year to help manage getting too carried away with my own thoughts, because there's something very refreshing about limiting what you're exposed to and choosing your battles as well. 2020 has been an incredible time for online arguments, conspiracies, political whatever, and you don't have to fight every battle. I know it's we're in the age of social media and we all have to get out there and have our opinions voiced, but you don't have to fight every battle, because how often do you argue online and it has a positive outcome? So I think choose your battles would be the most condensed way to pitch how I've dealt with this.
And Rees, you're more up to date with social media. I have a love and hate relationship with social media. I recognise it's there and you can use it for good and positive. But right now, if you say A, you're wrong. If you say B, you're wrong. And you're absolutely right. It's a battlefield for some. And people just aren't ready for any sort of positivity at the moment. So I myself have taken a step back, like your good self. Why do you think it's a battleground at the moment? Why has it become a battlefield?
I wouldn't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but it definitely feels like there's some passive aggression and whatnot, because the tone of the world has changed, and that's frightening. It's beyond our control, which is even more frightening. And people need that release. And sadly, the quickest way to do that is to send a tweet or a post, and it just feeds this cycle that goes on. And there's ways to break that. You can distance yourself. You can try and be funny or lighthearted in the situation and not contribute to the negativity that's already there. And you know what? If you are feeling negative, find a friend or someone you can just rant in their inbox or whatever. They're neutral. It's fine. You've got it out your system, but you haven't published it onto a public forum. So it's about knowing your limits on that. And as easy as it is to want to be impulsive and have your say and fight back, it's not always going to be the most fruitful way to go about it.
So you've touched there on a couple of things that you've placed into your life that help you on a day-to-day basis. I mean, talk about your day. What does your day look like that includes the whole self-care package, which impacts your mental health?
Yeah, so obviously because of the autism and all the various disabilities and impairments that I have on top of that, I'm quite a hermit. So when COVID happened, not much changed in my lifestyle. My day is still, I'll get up in the morning, go for a walk, post out any orders, come back, sit at the desk, do my drawing, get that done, get in the shower, have some dinner, relax. So I have a very simple hermit-like life because of my impairments. But honestly, I think the world could learn a bit from the autistic community during this year, because suddenly everyone's confined to their homes. Suddenly everyone has to have that one walk a day, and they're not in massive social environments all the time like they used to be. So it's, if you're having trouble adjusting to that, take a look at someone like me and just go, how are they getting on? And if any of that stuff applies to you, feel free to cherry pick it and help improve your life by learning from my mistakes and the things I do that are positive.
Yeah. So name one thing that you do is positive right now.
I feel I'm trying really hard to be nice on social media, and it's really hard as tensions ramp up, but it's just do something nice here and there. Pick a random good deed, do it, don't make a big deal of it.
There you go.
If it's someone on Twitter and it's their birthday, send them some money for pizza or something. Just do a little good deed, and the endorphins will get you through. And that sounds selfish, but it's give and take. You give something nice to someone and you get the happiness. It's a good trade-off. Yeah,
you reap what you sow, right? So if you put good out there, good will come back. Biblical concept. So high five on that, dude. Psh. Rees Finlay, thank you for joining us on That's Mental. We know you're going to be back to unpacking the whole identity issue, which is massive right now in the world, and also unpacking the autism community. I think you've hit something, a pearl of wisdom there that we could learn from the autism community during this pandemic and everything that's going on, and all the uncertainties that surround us. So Rees Finlay, thank you for joining us. We'll see you back on That's Mental. If anybody wants to find out more about you, where can they go, my friend?
So I'm on Twitter at ReesyTime, and you can get a copy of my book, Reaffirmation, on Amazon, in any country you're in. It's on there.
Awesome, awesome. You've been watching That's Mental TV with Rees Finlay.
Thank you.